Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Homebuying Journey. My name is Todd Utrip, but you may know me better as the Mortgage Captain. So why the moniker the Mortgage Captain? You see, before I was a loan officer, I was in the friendly skies as a corporate pilot. Transitioning from being a pilot to a loan officer might seem like quite the switch, but you'd be surprised at how many similarities that I've found. Now, as the Mortgage Captain, I bring the same attention to detail, calm demeanor, and effective communication to my work in mortgages that I did while flying. Both in the sky and in the world of home financing, it's about charting a course, avoiding turbulence, and ensuring a smooth landing. This podcast is here to help you with all of that. So whether you're starting on your first home buying journey or you've flown this route many times before, we're going to cover topics related to buying property from beginning to end and introduce you to some of the best real estate agents in the industry. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is, where do you start the home buying process? You know, many people jump straight into the excitement of house hunting by jumping on Zillow or Realtor.com and browsing around at all the nice houses. Or they might call a realtor or a realtor friend and ask for homes to start touring. But are either of those the best place to start? Let's discuss. Imagine you're a pilot like me and you're eager to embark on a new adventure. Instead of planning your route and coming up with a flight plan, you just rush to the airplane and taxi out to the runway. You're setting yourself up for confusion and delays. Home buying is much the same. Diving straight into house hunting can be alluring and exciting, but without knowing your financial bearings, you risk aiming for homes that are beyond your reach, or maybe you miss out on properties that you thought were out of your budget. By starting with an evaluation of your financial position, you gain some really important clarity. How much house can you afford? What areas or types of properties align with your budget? It's all part of charting a clear and direct course. And then, of course, there's the pre-approval. Consider this your flight clearance. With it, you signal to sellers that you're not just window shopping. You're a serious buyer with the means and intent to purchase. And in a competitive market, a pre-approval can be like the wind beneath your wings, giving you an edge over other offers on that same house. So listeners, I understand the allure of house hunting. What I mean by that is shopping around on Zillow and Realtor.com. The allure is undeniable. I mean, it's exciting, and you see lots of really nice houses and get you all excited. But you have to remember to chart your financial course first. So as your mortgage captain, I highly recommend getting those financial instruments checked and securing that pre-approval first. Once you've done that, and then you can contact your realtor and start looking at homes. So how do you evaluate your financial position? Imagine stepping into the flight deck of an aircraft. Before taking off, what pilots do is they check all of their instruments and check all their circuit breakers and everything else in the aircraft to make sure everything is set correctly and that it's ready for a smooth and safe flight. In the realm of home ownership, those instruments that you need to check are your savings, your debts, and your credit score. So let's break that down. So savings. Think of savings as your fuel, if you will. Just as an aircraft can't fly without fuel, your homeownership dreams can't take off without adequate savings. But it's not just about liftoff, it's about sustaining that journey. Your savings account for the initial down payment does influence your affordability for your monthly payment. However, it doesn't just end there. Closing costs, home inspections, potential immediate home repairs can also draw down from your savings. So in the vast sky of unexpected expenses, it's always wise to have a little extra fuel on board, if you will. So now I want to point out something that is very, very important for everyone to realize. There's a myth that you need 20% down to buy a house. That is absolutely not true. The amount required for a down payment is going to vary based on the intended occupancy use of the property, the type of property, and the loan program or product. So let's go down the rabbit hole here real quick on those items so you can have a good understanding of what those mean. So first, the intended occupancy use. There's three types. There's primary residence, second home, and investment property. So a primary residence, that is when you're indicating that you are going to live in the house or the home as your primary residence. So all your mail's going there, you're there all the time. A second home, think of a vacation home. This needs to be a property that is a good distance from your primary residence to qualify as a second home. And last is an investment property. This is when you're going to buy a property to rent out to tenants, whether that's a long-term tenant, such as somebody that's going to sign a 12-month lease, or if you're into the Airbnb, VRBO world, where you're going to do short-term rentals, where you'll rent out your house for just a single night at a time. The importance of why we need to know the occupancy use is the best interest rates come with primary residences, then second homes, and then finally investment properties. And the reason why the rates differ is there's more risk as you go from one to the next. Now, I mentioned type of property. There are several different types of property. There's the single family home, which is the most popular and what most people always think about. That's a single structure with just one family living there on a single lot. Now, you can also have a duplex. So you have a shared common wall in the same structure. And so two families are living there. And of course, there are things like condos, townhomes, townhouses, etc. I'll break down the significance of those items in a later podcast, but it's important to know that what you choose, not only with intended occupancy, but the type of property, is going to dictate the minimum down payment that is required. However, the biggest thing that makes a difference in the down payment requirement is the loan product that you choose. Now, we're definitely going to cover this in a future episode, but there are different loan products to choose from. The most common ones that you're going to hear about are going to be conventional, FHA, VA, and USDA loans. So each one of these has a different minimum requirement. So, for example, a conventional is going to require only 3% for qualified first-time home buyers. All others, the conventional loan requires 5% down payment. FHA offers a minimum of 3.5%. In VA and USDA, you can actually do those with 0% down. The most common loan products for first-time home buyers is FHA or conventional. So you may be thinking you need either 3.5% or maybe 3% down. While this is accurate, there are down payment assistance programs that are available for qualified borrowers that offer 2.5%, 3%, or even more. So that money is given or provided to you to use towards your down payment and closing costs. Again, there are qualification requirements for those programs, and I'll cover those in a later podcast episode. Or if you want, you can schedule a consultation with me, and we'll review all those programs together. Anyway, the takeaway is that you don't need 20%. Now, let's go to the second main instrument for you to review in preparation, which is debts. Now, while savings act as your fuel, think of debts as the weight of an aircraft, or your aircraft in this case. The more weight you carry, the more challenging it is to maintain altitude. Significant debt can hinder how much you're qualified to borrow, and more importantly, it can determine if you're ready for the financial responsibility of a home. So it's all about balance. An aircraft balance with the right amount of fuel and weight ensures a smooth journey. Similarly, understanding and managing your debts ensures your financial flight remains steady, even when faced with some unforeseen challenges. Now, lenders use a metric called debt-to-income ratio, or DTI for short. This measures the percentage of your monthly income that goes towards paying your debts. Why is this critical? Lenders want assurance that you can handle a mortgage payment on top of your existing financial obligations. So if you have significant debts, it might be worth paying some of them down before starting your home buying journey. So how do you calculate debt-to-income ratio? It's really pretty simple. You just take all your monthly debt payments and divide by your monthly income. So a real basic example is if you have monthly debt of $2,000 per month and you make $4,000 per month, 2,000 divided by 4,000, that's 50%. Now, your monthly debt consists of all loans and all minimum payments on your credit card accounts. Now, the loans, that's going to include student loans, auto loans, even installment loans. So if you recently bought furniture on a deal like a 3-year, same as cash, that's an installment loan. That's going to appear on your credit, and that'll count towards your DTI. What doesn't count are utilities. So things like your electric and gas, maybe your cell phone bill, those things don't count. Also, your general living expenses are not part of the equation. One other big thing to talk about is if you're currently renting, that is also not part of that DTI calculation. But here's an important step. Your proposed house payment, so the house you're going to buy, that is part of the DTI ratio. So that does get pretty challenging to calculate on your own. That's why you'll want to schedule a loan consultation and go through the pre-approval process. I'll be able to help you figure out exactly where your DTI is going to fall based on the various purchase prices that you're looking at. So let's say you can figure out your DTI. Your next question is, what is a good DTI ratio? Well, what you're really looking for is what is the maximum DTI ratio that you can have and still be qualified for the mortgage. When lenders talk about being qualified for the mortgage, that's basically saying that you're going to be approved. So the answer to the maximum DTI ratio is actually going to depend on several factors, including your credit score and the loan program, to name just a couple. So as an example, FHA loans, they are a little bit more forgiving. They typically allow a DTI as high as 43%, but in some cases, you might even be cleared for takeoff at a DTI of 56%. Now, you'll need compensating factors to be able to go that high. Compensating factors are additional points of your credit profile or your application that make you a stronger applicant. So, for example, if you have a lot of extra savings, those would count as reserves. Not to confuse you with more terminology in the lender world, but reserves, basically 1 month reserve equals 1 month of your housing payment. So the more reserves, more months of reserves that you have, that makes it a better compensating factor. Now, on the other hand, conventional loans are generally going to be a little bit more restrictive. They're going to typically stay at a max of 45%, can go a little bit higher, again, with the compensating factors. Okay, there's only one more item or instrument here to review, and that is your credit score. Now, your credit score is much like the maintenance log of an aircraft. It gives a history of its performance, potential issues, and overall reliability. Lenders use this score to gauge the risk of loaning you money, and that's why it's a very popular thing and why it's discussed and why you really have to pay attention to it. Now, a high credit score can open the door to favorable or more favorable interest rates. And that will save you a significant sum of money over the life of your loan. While conversely, a lower score means higher rates or potentially even a declined application. Regularly checking your credit score and credit report and understanding the various components of that credit report are very important. And it's going to allow you to address any discrepancies that you may find on that report and always know where you stand. Now, similar to the other requirements I have already mentioned, the minimum credit score required to be approved for the loan is going to vary based on the loan program. So, for example, most lenders have a minimum credit score of 580 for an FHA loan and 620 for conventional loans. Now, please note that just because you have a credit score that's higher than that number, it does not mean you're automatically approved. That credit score is just a part of the story that the underwriter is going to look at. Now, if you do have a low credit score, it can be financially beneficial for you to work on raising your credit score first before starting the home buying journey. Through a loan consultation and application, I can help you through that process and figure out, what's the best path forward. Ultimately, you'll make that decision, but I'll be happy to help you. And this leads me to another key point that is really important to me. In my mind, I don't like to tell clients they're not qualified to buy a house. Instead, I like to tell them, you're not qualified to buy a house right now. And then I help them figure out the path forward so that they can buy a house at some point in the near future. So diving headfirst into the housing market without first understanding these real vital instruments to review can be like attempting to fly through a thunderstorm without radar. You are creating high risk and the journey becomes unnecessarily turbulent. So again, by taking that time to evaluate your financial position, you're not just preparing for takeoff, you're ensuring the entire flight from takeoff to landing is as smooth as possible. And I totally get it. It may not be a glamorous first step, but it is undeniably, the most critical. Now, if you want assistance with figuring out where to stand on these three main items, please reach out to me and we'll schedule a free consultation to review your situation. And of course, when you've reviewed your situation and everything looks good, then the next step is to get pre-approved. And if you're wondering what that entails, I'll explain the pre-approval process in the next episode. All right, I wanted to introduce you to some great agents around the city, and I have one here with me now today. I have Lory Kim. Lory is a realtor and also an owner of Remax Connection in Gahanna. Welcome, Lory.
Hey, thanks, Todd.
All right, Lory, so tell me a little bit about your background. When did you get started in real estate?
All right, so I've been around for a little while. I was born and raised in Columbus. I actually started as a telemarketer in 1998. After school, I would go to Central Mortgage.
Okay.
This is when rates were around 8.5%.
Oh, wow.
And we were trying to get people to refinance because it was the lowest rate that they've been at in years.
Wow, 8.5.
Yes.
And we're now like 7, give or take, depending on your situation. Everybody thinks the sky is falling. So
right.
Back then 8.5.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So that was back then. And then through the years, I went to college. I got a degree in marketing and business management. I worked for a new builder. I was a processor for a subprime lender, New Century, which you might have heard of, which was the second largest subprime lender.
Yep.
And then after that, I actually lost my job, and I said, I'm going to become a real estate agent because that's what I always wanted to do.
Awesome.
And I got licensed in 2007.
Okay.
What kind of triggered me to get licensed is I did take a unlicensed position working for the largest real estate agent at that time, which she's still around. She's been Adelina Siamaco, which is with Remax Connection now still. Okay. But she was kind of like one of my main motivators. I was like, oh my gosh, who is this lady? She would have 30 listings at a time back then, like in 2002. Uh-huh. I was unlicensed. I was working for her. And I was like, I want to be like her, And she kind of inspired me to, seek, getting my real estate license and stuff like that. So then in 2007, after all these years, I failed my tests a couple times. And then I finally got licensed when I got laid off from working for New Century. And I said, what's happening? The market is crashing, but I'm going to become licensed and help people with their largest investment in their life. And that's kind of where it started, where it kind of evolved from.
So you've been doing this for a long time, obviously. Yep. And a lot of times agents, when they've been doing real estate for quite a long time, will focus on one area or another, but you kind of help everybody, correct?
Yeah. So, throughout my journey, I guess you could say, I started off as a licensed agent in 2007. I've been with Remax since day one. I've been surrounded by incredible mentors and colleagues. And here in the Central Ohio area, I always knew that I wanted to own my own brokerage, and that became available. An opportunity kind of became available in 2018. And then that's when I purchased Remax Connection, the brokerage.
Okay.
So not only do I help people with their real estate, investments, whether they're buying, selling, or investing, but I'm also, here to help agents grow their business.
Right. That's great.
So, yeah.
Great. So in your time in the industry, what's the biggest lesson or maybe takeaway that you've learned from your position that can be helpful for somebody that's looking to buy a home?
Well, the possibilities are endless. So there's always opportunity, and no matter what's going on out there, you can do anything. So if you want to own a home and you can put a plan together to have home ownership. If you want to sell real estate, doesn't matter what the market is, what's happening in the market. There is closings every single day. So if you're a new real estate agent or you've been around for a long time, there is somebody who's going to be going through some transition in their life where they need help with buying, selling, or investing. There's people out there with money. They want to spend it. You can help them spend it. There's people out there that don't have money, that don't think that home ownership is even an option for them. But there is programs out there that can help people, and I can help people with that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so earlier in the episode, I talked extensively about the importance of, especially first-time home buyers, really assessing their financial position so they know what they can afford and know what they can't afford. Have you had any, experiences with buyers that you can share that failed to do that, and how that maybe caused them a lot of heartache or turbulence, so to speak, when they were going through the process?
Yeah, I think it's important for when I get connected with people to help them understand that talking with a reputable lender, kind of figuring out their finances is important, because their finances or their situation is different from somebody else. So just because they might have heard something from somebody else, they might qualify for a lot more. Or what we're experiencing in today's market might be different than a couple months ago, a year ago, 4 or 5 years ago. My mom and dad, they still can't believe that you can buy a house with, only 3.5% down. So I think that everybody needs to kind of understand that when they talk to somebody who's a professional, can work with them through their finances, they can figure out a game plan together to, move forward in purchasing or selling today. And if that doesn't work out today, then it doesn't matter if you have to wait a couple more months or a year or 2 years or however long it might take for you to find the best, property that fits your needs.
Yep. Now, obviously, if anybody's paying attention to the news or any of the media reports or active on social media, you're going to hear that it's still a really, really hot market. And I think I saw a post that you recently made about Gahanna being one of the hottest markets, not just in our area, but the country, right?
That is right. I actually was so surprised as well. Little old G-Town, Gahanna coming out on top. It just goes to prove that Columbus is a hot market. Gahanna is, centrally located, I believe, close to the airport, minutes to downtown. You have all these Intel, Google, Amazon, within miles to Gahanna. But just in overall looking at the Columbus market, it is a great time to buy. And I think that what we have here is affordability, opportunity. Builders are still building. So it is an opportunity for you to come in and buy in a large market, a growing market where it's still affordable and it's a great place to live.
Yeah, and speaking of a great place to live, obviously you're very ingrained, I guess, in the Gahanna community. You have your family and your kids are growing up in the school systems there. Can you talk a little bit about that part of it, your community involvement in Gahanna?
Yeah, I actually moved away for a couple years, moved to I would say the west side of Columbus, but I moved back to be closer to, obviously, my mom and dad, their, help with, raising our kids and just being close to family. I have a close community that I'm a part of, the Macedonian community, and we tend to have majority of the people living on the east side, I would say. So that's what's important to us. And then being that, I grew up in Gahanna, and then my business is in Gahanna, it's a great place for us to continue to grow. But, I'm not just centered in Gahanna. I consider Columbus in the surrounding suburbs my hometown.
Awesome.
I have a great network of people that I have met throughout the years. Obviously, my husband, like I said, I didn't say, but he is from the west side.
Okay.
So we have, close family and friends all over town.
Yep. And I was fortunate enough to help participate in one of your activities earlier this year for the 4th of July parade. That was a lot of fun with you guys.
Yeah, we've been
With the,
doing
Hannah parade.
that. This was our 6th year. Well, I think sixth year.
Yeah.
We started doing it in 2018, and it's so great. We have incredible agents. Our agents and myself can bring our family, our friends. We get out there. The kids are involved. We have people that are super soaker, get out the super soakers and blast each other. And we've created such great memories together. And that's what I think it's all about, getting out there, being together and having fun.
Yeah. And obviously it was a lot of fun, and there's a lot of people on the sidewalks and so forth with their super soakers waiting for you guys to come, because you guys have been doing it for so many years.
Yeah,
which is
it's
great,
really great.
Which is great. So, what kind of advice would you give to a first-time home buyer that's just getting started in the process with regards to today's current market and where things are at?
Well, I would definitely recommend them kind of figuring out their financials first. Figuring out what their comfort zone is. I don't know what the programs might work for you. So, reaching out to, our preferred lenders, having them navigate through their financials to kind of see what their comfort zone is, what they qualify for. And then together we can kind of figure out, okay, does this location work for you? What's most important to you? Is location important? Some people don't care where they live, especially after what we've experienced over these past several years. Mm-hmm. People are open to moving to, not, really working close to work necessarily, because a lot of people are working from home. Or, maybe they want to move where they can walk to places. They don't have to be in the suburbs. Or maybe they do want to be farther out and they want to be away from everybody. So whatever that transition is that somebody might be going through, I can help them find, a place to live and call home. But really kind of figuring out the financial side of it, that's the most important part. Because sometimes we think that we can't really afford something, and we really can. Yeah. Or sometimes we think that we can afford all this based on a mortgage calculator we do online, but that might not be really what I can, actually be comfortable paying a month. Right. And what is that monthly payment? Is it the monthly payment that's, the driving force?
And that there's a very distinct point to be made there. Just because you can be approved to buy a house at a certain price and payment doesn't necessarily mean it's best for you. You really need to be careful to make sure it's going to fit in with all your other financial obligations. You still have money for your other house expenses. I think the term is you don't want to be house broke, right?
Yeah.
Have a house and can't afford to do anything else.
Sure. Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap this up, if our listeners or viewers would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Well, you can reach out to me through any of our social media platforms at LoryKim.com, Lory Kim Remax, and that's Lory with a Y, LoryKim.com. And reach out anytime, and I'll be more than happy to help further assist with any of your and all of your real estate needs.
Fantastic. Well, Lory, thank you for joining us today.
Thank
I look
you.
forward to having you back again, hopefully sometime in the near future, and we'll dive a little deeper next time.
All right. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.